afternoon, everyone. Chris Berryman here, coalition builder and founder of Bringing Humanity Together. Welcome to our Bringing Humanity Together live stream. Today is going to be Share and Care with Sandy. This is one of the 3 open forums under the Bringing Humanity Together umbrella where people can discuss topics related to the workplace and humanity in the workplace in a very positive and constructive way. We want to know what the issues that are out there that are facing people today, because it is our goal to bring both employers and employees to the table and be able to bring humanity back into the workforce. And as always, we'll be going live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all at 3 o'clock. But all calls have a 15-minute meet and greet between 2:45 and 3 o'clock. Please feel free to invite your friends, co-workers, colleagues, fur babies. We'll take them all. And if also they can't be able to join the call, let them know. It'll be on LinkedIn Live or on our YouTube channel. You can even share the replay too as well. And again, I will be your host for Conversations for Humanity on Wednesday. Share and Care with Sandy Chernoff, of course, is today, and that will be hosted by Sandy. Thursdays is always hosted by Carla Finnegan for Humanity Happy Hour. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel or LinkedIn Live, let us know where you're jumping on and watching from. Feel free to comment on today's topic. And also, if you have any topic you want to bring up or questions or comments or whatever, please feel free to leave them, like I said, on YouTube or on LinkedIn Live, and we will definitely reach out to you. And we'd like to have that great and engaging conversation with you. And just to let you know, if you want to join us on the live chat in the room as well, we can have up to 6 people in the live stream at any one time. So if you'd like to jump on, please say, hey, I'd like to jump on and everything like that, whether it be YouTube or on LinkedIn Live, and we'll love to have you on. So here's someone I've not seen in quite a while, Patrick, and of course this Miss Sandy. How you doing?
Nice to see you, Patrick. How are you
Thank
doing?
you. I'm, like I told him, 50% right now.
I'm so sorry. We were really worried about you.
It was awful. It was like 4 days in the hospital, and they wanted to keep me longer, and I had self-discharged. I said, absolutely not. There's too many people out there in the world that needed beds. They were out of beds. Why am I going to sit there waiting for them to change one number that they didn't like when I knew I'd be healthier going home? So I said, no, I'm out. So I checked myself out.
Man.
Wow.
I was on the COVID floor too, which was fun. Didn't have COVID, but I was on the same floor as all the COVID patients.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
So, Sandy, if I'm correct, you got another holiday coming up, which is Yom Kippur, correct?
Yep, Thursday.
Nice.
That's our Day of Atonement, Chris. You have to fast all day.
Yeah. Now, see, to me, I don't think I could probably do that, because it's bad enough that I only eat sometimes one time a day, but to not go all day without really eating, I don't know if I can do that.
See, I'm completely agree with you, Chris. Sorry. Because I eat like a Frenchman. I eat every 2 hours. So my metabolism is so used to that.
Well, the best way to do it, Chris, is to go to the synagogue and stay in synagogue all day. And if you're there and you're praying and you're doing other things, then you don't really think about it, and it works pretty well. I mean, even my kids, I never made them fast, but they would sort of fast for part of the day or whatever. And it's just, when I was young, I used to go to the synagogue with my grandfather. And of course, he was, he would never touch food. So from the time I was about 10 or 11 years old, and I'd spend the day with my grandfather in the synagogue, so I would fast because there was nothing else to do. And I was with him, and of course, he wouldn't eat anything. He wouldn't even drink anything. I will drink during the fasting time. Because
what can you drink?
Water, Carla.
Yeah.
But especially when I was in the choir, we all had water. People maybe didn't see what we were doing, but we were drinking water because it's really hard to keep singing, and your throat's dry and everything. You have to have some water. So, but it's just, it's just what you do. And what you're doing is you're asking for forgiveness, and you're asking to be inscribed for a good and sweet year in the coming year. And if you fast, there's a better chance that that will happen. So they say.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it just is what it is. It's a tradition. I mean, Yale and I generally fast. I mean, what you do is on Wednesday night, you have a family dinner, and I'll probably have my daughter over. And then you fast all day on Thursday, and then a Thursday night after sundown, because all Jewish holidays start from sundown to sundown, you have another family dinner. And so, you then get to eat again. But it's really, it's 24 hours basically.
Well, part of that you're asleep.
Yes, part of that you are asleep, Carla.
So, I mean, come on.
Yeah, but it's it's traditional. It's part of the tradition of what you do. On Rosh Hashanah, you don't fast. I had my daughter over for dinner the first night of Rosh Hashanah, and we didn't actually go to the synagogue this year. The problem I have with going to the synagogue is because we sing, most of the prayers are sung. And, if your mask gets wet, the droplets will go through your mask. So I was not real comfortable to go to the synagogue, and the services have all been put on Zoom. Apparently there were about 300 people in the main sanctuary, but they had 4 services. They had a main service, they had an alternative service, they had a service for teens, and they had a family service. So they had, in different parts of the synagogue, they had a lot of different services going on. And in addition, our synagogue has a big patio on the outside, and one of the services was outside. But I don't know what they're going to do today. It's raining. So it's not supposed to rain on Thursday. So hopefully they'll probably have some of the services outside. But I think Yale and I will stay home. It's just
You've gone from heat to rain.
Yeah. It's raining right now, Carla. I mean, and they said it was to rain until noon, but it started raining about 9 o'clock. And I was supposed to get my new blinds today. And I told the company yesterday, and I said, it's supposed to rain tomorrow. Do the guys really want to come and do this in the rain? And she said, let me phone you back. I'll phone them. So she phoned the crew, and they said, no, they don't want to do it in the rain. So it's rebooked now for the 24th of September, which is a Friday morning, because they were going to come here at 8 o'clock in the morning, and she said they were going to be here till 2. So, I mean, it's a really big job. They've got to change 2 blinds, and they've got to put in a new motor for the blind that's over my atrium, front hall. Because that motor has died. So there's a number of things. Fortunately, in this place, our roofs are flat. So it isn't like they got to be standing, on a like this. They can just stand on a flat roof and do what they have to do. So, that's a little bit better. In fact, when they were here last time, when they were doing the measurements, my next door neighbor called me and she says, who's walking around on the roof? they took a roof over her house to get to backside. Anyway, it was funny. I said, it's the guys from Talius. They're doing something with my blinds. They're doing measurements. She was very funny. Who's walking on the roof? Well, I have large skylights, Carla. And in my front hall, for example, I have a lot of artwork. So I don't want a lot of light in there because it'll damage the artwork. Right. And so I keep it, but I couldn't do anything with the blind. So I put my electrician, and he came and he said, no, it's not the electrical stuff. He said, your motor needs to be changed. So then I phoned the guys at Talius, and they came and checked it, and you got to change the motor. But when he was fooling around with the blind, the whole thing disintegrated. So we just lay it down on the skylight, but they're going to have to take it off. And I said, well, check the other one, because if this one's disintegrating, they're the same age. This one's probably going to fall apart too. So we're changing both of them at the same time. But this one that's over my kitchen, the motor is fine. So that's okay. But so
why would you even need, why would you want blinds for them?
Because it gets too bright. And in addition, if, with the snow and everything, I'd rather have these metal blinds. It protects the skylight. So, Anyway, and this company is pretty good. The guys are good, but it's a big job. So, they're going to be here for several hours. So,
Wow.
yeah. Anyway, it is what it is. I mean, no biggie. But it's very expensive. Couldn't believe it. It's going to be like about $10,000 to get these things and the motor done. But anyway, yeah, I've already paid. I paid them $5,000 up front. That's when they ordered the blinds. So I'll have to pay them the rest when they're done. But that's okay. I mean, you have to do what you have to do. See, we don't know how old this stuff is because we've been here almost 18 years. They were here when we got here. So I don't know if it's the woman who lived here before us who put them in or if somebody put them in before that. These places were built in the late 70s.
Well, I'd say if you got 18 years out of it, that was great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying I don't know how old they are. So, it's no wonder that things fall apart after, 25, 30 years. Duh. So, but that's okay. I mean, it just is what it is. When you live in an old place like this, stuff happens. It's just, they've replaced the roofs here, and they've been doing a lot of work on the siding. We've had some of our siding replaced. And, the strata takes care of anything outdoors, but because these were installed by an owner, it's not really part of the strata. So you're responsible for it. So they changed our garage door because it was falling apart. And,
well, hey, that's nothing. That's the only thing that's replaced, and they take care of the garage door and the sidings and the roof and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that's a win. Yeah.
Well, that's what you pay your strata fees for, is to cover a lot of this kind of stuff. So, I mean, again, we live it's like living in a little village. I mean, it's kind of fun, and we know everybody. And we socialize with a couple of the couples in here, but most of the time, you just know who the people are, and you know who their family is, and the cars that belong or don't belong. And, like when my neighbor goes out of town, I have a key to her house. She tells me. My next door neighbor on the other side has a key to their house if they go away. We have other friends in here. My next door neighbor also has a key to the place. And we have other friends in here who, if we're away, they come and check the house, as does our daughter. So, and you just sort of keep an eye on things. We know each other. We want to make sure everybody's okay. But most of the people in here are really old. I'm serious. We have 200-year-olds living in here. My sister-in-law lives in here, and she's 92. I would say the average age in here is at least in their 80s. I'm one of the younger people in here because I'm only in my 70s. Neil's in his 80s, but it's just, the guy that's 100 years old, he's amazing. He goes for a walk every single day with his wife and his caregiver. He's got a walker, but he goes every day. He's terrific. Really, good for him. It's just, it's really great to see him. And when we moved in here, I sold the stove, and they're the ones who bought the stove from us. Because, they had the same stove and it was dying. So they bought our stove and put it in their place. And I got all this stuff. I don't have a stove anymore. I have a cooktop and a wall oven and, other stuff. I completely redid the kitchen. But they're a very nice couple, just really nice people. But it's just, did you have a nice holiday, Lisa?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Where'd you go?
We went up to the UP. So we actually were in Canada. The phones told us there for a minute. We were so far off in Michigan, they said, "You are now entering Canada." And we looked at our phones and we said, "What?" So I thought of you.
But when we went to Florida, it was like, "Welcome to Florida." We're like, our cell phone knows we're in Florida. I'd never heard that before.
Well, I've been to Florida because my sister-in-law, believe it or not, she and her husband had an apartment in Florida. And so one year, Sylvia kept saying to us, you got to come. So one year We did. And so what we did is we went to Toronto. We spent a couple of days with Mark and his family. And then there's a direct flight from Toronto to Miami. So it was easy. So we flew down there and we spent about a week with Sylvia. And then we have other friends from Toronto who have places down there. So we also spent some time with our friends as well. So it was kind of fun. And I mean, I've been to lots of places in the US because, I mean, it's close by. And I've been to New Mexico. I've been to Chicago. I've been to Arizona. We've been all up and down the coast, Washington, Oregon, California. I actually went to university in Oregon. And
didn't you teach in California too?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I worked in California for a little while.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then I moved to Toronto for a while, and I practiced in Toronto for a while too. But I didn't like the dentistry there. It wasn't the same quality as dentistry here in BC, if you can believe that. I got very spoiled because my dad was an amazing, amazing dentist. He had very high standards. And I told Chris, he had a lot of dentists for patients. That's how good his dentistry was. And so I got used to that kind of dentistry. So when I worked for this guy in Toronto, he wasn't a very good dentist. I mean, I wasn't used to seeing the sort of stuff that he put into people's mouths. So after a while, I just figured, you know what, enough of this. Got in my car and drove home.
Yeah,
but,
that's a long drive.
Yeah, it is a long drive. But one of my girlfriends flew out.
Vicky, what, 2 weeks?
Well, one of my girlfriends flew out to Toronto and she drove with me. So we actually made a little holiday out of it. It was kind of fun. But, it's just a matter of, there's a lot of interesting things to see in the States. Like one of my aunts lived in Santa Fe. And so when my parents were alive, we went down there and visited them. But Yale and I went down and we flew down and we rented a car when we got there. And we had actually a really nice holiday in the Santa Fe area because there's a lot of history and different kinds of things, and we drove around. It was kind of cool, and we've spent time in Arizona, and we've been to Mexico a number of times. We like to travel. We like to see different things and do different things and eat different food, and so travel to us is something that we love to do.
What's your favorite place in the U.S.?
I think I like California quite a lot.
What part? I mean, it's so different from the north and the south.
Well, it is. I've skied there. I've hiked there. Yale has cousins who live in LA. I had cousins who lived in San Francisco. Unfortunately, they have passed away now, but they were my dad's cousins. And I've spent a lot of time in California just because it's, there's so many different things to do. But I loved Chicago. We went with friends to Chicago. We actually drove from Toronto. And Chicago's a wonderful city. We spent about 10 days there and we walked our legs off.
Yeah.
We walked everywhere. But I
really like Chicago too.
It's a really good place. We had a great time there. Of course, we've been to New York many times.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, we've done a lot of travel in Canada too. I mean, we've been to Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia, and so we've been out to the Maritimes. And of course, my mom came from Montreal, so I've been to Montreal lots of times. And of course, now that our son lives in Toronto, normally without this pandemic, I usually go at least 2 or 3 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
Usually spend at least 2 weeks when I go there because I like to spend time with the boys. But we also have friends and some other relatives that are in the Toronto area. And we have a very good friend in Hamilton. So whenever we go to Toronto, we usually borrow a car from Mark and Kim and we drive down and visit Mark. It's just, it's not that far, so it's no big deal. But, it's also, you're really close to Niagara Falls and there's lots of things to do. So we do. And, Yale and I have been to pretty much every continent.
Wow. That's awesome.
Well, we've been to the Middle East a number of times. So, we've been to Israel, but we've also been to Egypt and we've seen the pyramids and, we've gone down the Nile and that sort of thing. And we've been to Japan, we've been to China, we've been to Thailand, we've been to Australia.
Wow.
You know, we've been to most European countries. And, you know, I mean, the world is a very, we've been to South America. We spent time in Chile and Argentina, and we've been to Peru, and, you know, we've done some different things in South America as well. And of course, we've been to Mexico a number of times, so we've been all over Mexico. And it's just, you know, it's just something that we've always liked to do. And we both traveled before we got married. And in fact, one of the times that I was traveling, I met Yale in England. Before we were married, you know, he was traveling with a couple of guys, and I was traveling with a girlfriend, and we met in London. It was very funny, but you know, but it's just, I used to have an aunt and uncle who lived in London, so I've been there a number of times, and we've traveled. We've done a lot of traveling in England, actually. I haven't been to Ireland. It's a place I'd sort of like to go to.
Yeah. So how did you meet?
Pardon?
How did you and your husband meet?
Oh, on a blind date.
There you go.
Well, a girlfriend of mine, who's also a hygienist, was also married to a lawyer, and he knew Yale, and they thought that we should meet. So we went on a blind date. That was the first time.
Oh, that is unreal.
So yeah, that was kind of funny. He took me to the Bayshore Inn, which is a very fancy hotel in Vancouver. And we went out for a drink and, you know, whatever. Anyway, it was kind of interesting.
And the rest is history, right?
Well, that's right. Wild, but you know, the rest is history. So yeah.
When I met my husband, I met him through a girlfriend of mine when I'd given up on dating, and she was like, "Well, can he call you?" I said, "Whatever." Can he email you? Whatever. Do you want to go out with him? Whatever. If he wants to contact me, that's fine. You know, it was just like, I gave up on dating. And so he called me and we talked, and I agreed to go out with him. And he was so unlike anybody else I'd ever dated before.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's nice.
Yeah. And it's like, well, that was interesting. He'll probably never call again. And he called me, and we went out again. And that was when we played putt-putt, and he let me win at putt-putt. And I said, "Oh, you must play golf."
Come on, putt-putt is not a game, though. That's just like...
I do. You? And I said, "Are you kidding me? I was busy." My parents wanted me to play golf. I said, "I was busy raising teenagers. I didn't have time to play golf, nor the money, you know." And he goes, "You want to learn?" I looked at him like, "You got the fool." I said, "You want to teach me?" And that was 17 years ago.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, well, Yale and I have been married in this December. Are you ready, guys? 49 years.
Woo!
Nice.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
We have lots of...
The world will be open, and we will celebrate 50 with you.
You darn skippy we will.
Well, and you know what's funny? We have a lot of friends who've been married 50 years or more. We have a lot of friends who've been married 50 years or more. So it's kind of interesting. But, you know, I mean, he's a Calgarian. That's where he grew up. But he came, when he started university, he came to Vancouver, and he stayed here. I mean, he's a CA, so he did his accounting degree here. And then he did a business degree. And then because he was an accountant, he could put himself through law school. So he, you know, saved up his money after he worked as an accountant for a couple of years, and then he went to law school. And that's what he does now. He practices law, but, you know, as I told you before, he's got a calculator for a brain. So it's just really...
So Miss Sandy, I believe our topic for this week will be about growth and everything. So what does growth look like and mean to you, Miss Sandy?
Well, you know what, Chris? I think, and Carla's mentioned this many times, I think that through your whole life, you should continue to grow, to learn things and to expand your mind and to try different things and to learn, you know, things that will help you in different aspects of your life. And I think it's really important to continue to grow. It's good for your brain, and it's just good in general. I mean, people who don't expand their minds and who don't, who like quit learning and, whatever. I mean, like, what kind of a life is that? There's so much out there in terms of things that we can learn and things that we can do. And why wouldn't you want to do it? Why wouldn't you want to learn something new? Why wouldn't you want to try something new? Why wouldn't you even want to try doing something that you always do in a different way? Like, it's just, and that's all part of growth. And I think that it's a very important aspect of our lives. And I've said this many times, that when people retire, if they don't have a plan of how they're going to stay physically and mentally active, they go downhill very quickly. Because, it's very important. As I've said before, our brains are designed to create new neurons as long as we're alive, but only if we challenge it to open new neural pathways. And you can only do that if you're not a robot. People who live their lives and do exactly the same thing day after day after day in the same way, this is not healthy for your brain. So it's important to, have a plan, learn how to paint or how to sculpt or, play an instrument that maybe you always wanted to play, or, I belong to a book club, and it's fun because all the women in this book club are pretty opinionated. So our meetings are usually pretty interesting. In fact, I have a meeting tonight. And at the end of the year, we always decide which books we're going to read. Everybody brings suggestions and we vote on it. And then you get the whole list. So even if you wanted to read one of the books that wasn't chosen, you have the name and the author, so you can still read that book. And it's several of the women were teachers. So, it's a very interesting group of women, and they're all pretty smart. So it's a lot of fun. And we've been doing this for almost 15 years now. And until tonight, we're actually going to somebody's house. But for the last 18 months or whatever, we've been doing the meetings on Zoom. But everybody decided that they were tired of that and they wanted to get together. So we're going to try that tonight. So we'll see what happens. We always used to do it at somebody's house, but, with this pandemic, things got...
That'll be fun to get together,
Well, it is. And, we sort of missed that. So,
yeah. Well, you have to protect your health, and you gotta go on with life. And
well, everybody's been double vaccinated.
Yeah,
we know that. So
that helps.
That helps, but we can still wear masks. We can, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And, one of my friends who lives on the other side of the golf course for me, she's coming over here, and we're going to go together, and we're going to pick up one of the other ladies. Because Sharon phoned me and said that she wasn't feeling that well. She didn't want to drive. So okay, we'll come and get you. No biggie. She doesn't live that far from me anyway, and it's on the way to Arlene's house. So it's no biggie. We'll pick her up. But it's just, with this pandemic, it's been very hard for most of us because human beings are very social creatures.
Right.
And we like to be with our friends and our family. And this has really made it difficult because it hasn't allowed. Gail and I did something very unusual on Saturday night. We went to a BC Lions football game in our big stadium. And we hadn't been to, sort of some big outing. And when you arrived, if you didn't have a mask, they were giving them out at the door. Everybody, it was mandated you had to wear a mask. But as of yesterday, we now have vaccination passports here in British Columbia. And if you go to a sporting event or a concert or a movie or a restaurant or a gym, you've got to show your vaccination card. So what I did with ours, I photocopied it. So I have a paper version of it, but when it was up on my computer screen, I took a picture of it with my phone. So I have a picture of it on my phone, both mine and Yale's. So, if they want to see it on the phone, I'll show it to them on their phone. Otherwise, I'll just show them the piece of paper that I photocopied it on. It's got a QR code on it that you have to enter information online. And then, up came this QR code thing. So whatever. Anyway, there's been huge protests about it. People don't like doing these things. They don't like getting vaccinated. They don't like having to show that they've been vaccinated because they don't want to be vaccinated. It's like,
yeah. That's a whole other.
Well, it is. But I think, that's another aspect of growth. Unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially on social media. And young people, that's what they rely on for information. I don't rely on social media for any information. I don't trust it. We listen to the news and we read the newspaper. And I've also talked to my doctor about this. And I just think that, you got to go by the science. And right now, the science is showing us that if you're vaccinated, it doesn't guarantee you won't get the virus. That doesn't guarantee it. But if you do get the virus, you will get a much milder version. And you probably won't end up in the hospital, and you certainly won't die. Because right now in the Vancouver area and in BC, 90% of the people in the hospital with COVID are unvaccinated.
Now tell me this, these people that went into the hospital because of COVID, or these are people that were tested because they were hospitalized for something else?
No, these are people that caught COVID and they've ended up in the hospital. And it's not just old people, because everybody says, oh, well, it's the old people. It's not just the old people. There are people in their 30s and 40s that are in the hospital because they figured, I'm young, I'm healthy, I don't need to get vaccinated. Well, I'm sorry. It's bullshit. And, you need to get
how he feels about it.
Well, you've got to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
It's just like us getting the flu shot every year. It's just, again, it doesn't guarantee you won't get the flu, but if you get it, you won't get that sick. Mm-hmm. And so, and what they're talking about now is getting a third shot. They're talking about this in the States, they're talking about it here. And it's the people that are immunocompromised that they want to get it first. But even people like Yale and I who are old, so we'll also get the third vaccine. So, it's just a matter of, again, are you paying attention? Are you reading up on things? Are you getting correct information? It's, it's part of the whole process. And that's just part of the process.
I think that the people need to be aware. And I think that for me as a healthcare provider, I think that conversation needs to be had between you and your physician.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the fact that that a lot of people have put people in boxes and they have pitted people against another. Go have that conversation with your physician, just like you would with any other vaccine that you want to have. I had that conversation with my healthcare provider. And frankly, whether I vaccinate or not, it's nobody else's business. And I think that we need to be grow up and be respectful of one another.
Right.
For sure.
We need to show some intellectual and emotional maturity.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
when it comes to growth, then to you, Patrick, what does it look like and mean to you and the experience that you have gained over these many years? What shows up to you when it comes to growth?
Well, as anything, you throw out a topic, and I'm going to dissect it, right? Pull it down into its grittiest parts. And when you first told me growth when I came on, the first thing that popped in my mind was it personal or is it business growth? Who's growing here? What's growing? And the more I got to think about it, really what's behind that growth, it's all the same, whether it's personal, business, or whatever it is. But it all comes down to having the ability to want to achieve. Because if you don't have that ability, you're basically going to fall flat. The other thing is, I'm going back to what you were saying, Sandy, it's have a level of understanding. Not knowledge, but understanding. Those are two different things, because you can know the information, but if you don't understand it, it's not going to do you any good. And we have to treat growth as a practice, just like doctors practice medicine, lawyers practice law. We have to practice growth. It's just to be a part of who we are, and we should always continue working, making it better. And that'll make you grow more and make everything better in the end.
Well, what shows up to me, Patrick, I'm glad you said what you said and the way you said it, because that is perfectly spot on, and I love that. But for me, at least, and I said this with Lisa and to Sandy and to Carla and with you and our entire team, to me, there's not just personal development or professional development. There's human development. And if you want to grow as a human being, you should be open to any and all things that come your way from that kind of mindset. To me, it's not only a state of being, it is truly a mindset shift that you have, that you're, again, it's all about intentionality. If your intention is to grow in everything, and you want to do it not only from a personal point of view, but also a professional point of view. But see, to me, once we realize that both interconnected as it is, you can't have personal without professional. They're interconnected, they intertwine. So, for me at least, I want to create that environment that creates those better results from even a growth mindset, because a lot of times we get stuck in the rigmarole of saying, hey, oh, I can't do this. No, I can't do that. Well, that's because you're coming from a mindset of scarcity versus a mindset of abundance. If you think positive and you stay positive and you focus on the power of positivity and the power of possibility, what can you not achieve or grow in and learn from those very opportunities that are before you? And before I go to Lisa, I want to play this great video from, again, none other than John C. Maxwell. And this is what he has said on growth. And I found this on YouTube. And this is what he also has to say on growth.
Chapter number 2 is the shift from goals to growth. I call this the personal development. So let me define what I mean by the personal development shift. That's finding what you do on the inside in order to grow what's on the outside. Because goals
What happened to the sound, Chris? It started fine. Bless you. Bless you.
Bless you.
Carla. Yale. It started raining here at 9 o'clock. It started raining here at 9 o'clock.
And I apologize because that's actually the YouTube volume, and I don't know. It's probably an older video, but on my end I can hear it. But we'll share that video in another post so everyone can actually watch it. But from the human development mindset, Lisa, what does growth look like and mean to you?
So to me, growth it's just an ongoing process that relates to your personal and professional growth. I think that with personal growth, there comes professional growth. Your perspectives, obviously, with any form of growth are going to relate to the other. When you have professional growth, it can help you look at things differently on a personal level as well. So they do interrelate, like you said, Chris. And like Sandy was saying, growth is it's something that, we should strive to have growth. It's a process of evolving, really. And so the evolvement into that growth is human development, really. And so with that, it can help us see different perspectives in our lives, whether it be professional or personal. So it's that growth and aside from what Sandy was saying, going outside of your comfort level sometimes can help build that growth. And so if we just stay in our norms and we don't do anything different or see anything different, those neurons, like Sandy was saying, are not going to happen as well as they should. And it really affects our development, our human development. And as it relates to the workforce, working with others, you have obviously growth is important because it can help you see those different perspectives. And that helps us be more respectful and create that trust, those bonds with people. And so not just at work, but in our personal lives as well.
And you see, Chris, in professions, in order to maintain your license as a professional, you have to do continuing ed. And there are a certain number of hours that you have to do, whether it's a 3-year cycle or an annual cycle or whatever, and you've got to register it with your college. And if you don't do that, then you have to take another exam.
Who wants to do that?
Yeah, exactly. So, it's something that I learned to do from the time I graduated because it was a requirement that you had to do. And once I got into business, then I was used to finding, new things or new ways of doing things and talking to people about what I was doing. And I did a lot of research. I still do a lot of research online, looking for new kinds of exercises and games and making sure that the information that I'm delivering is up to date and, all those kinds of things. And also I'm in a couple of groups where there are other trainers, and a lot of times we exchange information and exercises and so on and so forth. And again, it's just another aspect of growth. You've got to continue to stay on top of what you're doing so that you're doing a good job, and so that you make sure that the information you are sharing is up to date and is, what people need to know. And if you don't stay on top of things, then, you get out of date. I mean, it's just, it's not the best way to go. And Carl and I both came up through professions like that. I mean, it's just something that you do because you don't have a choice. And what we used to do in the office is if somebody went to a course, then at the next staff meeting, we would share what we learned with the rest of the staff.
Well,
I'd give a report.
Right.
Yeah. You remember years ago, we never even had what was evidence-based research. We just did it because that's the way we had done it for years.
Exactly.
And then when they said, okay, so let's look at how we're doing something and see if there's a better way of doing it, that was the development of evidence-based research. And I know just being out of reproductive endocrinology for 2 years now, and I was just doing some continuing education this weekend while I was watching football. And some of the topics were related to reproductive endocrinology, and I was thinking, oh, they're not doing it that way anymore, or this doesn't have the weight of an assessment tool that it used to have years ago. And things change.
Well, they do change, and that's the reason why it's so important in your profession to keep up, because things will change, new things come up. And, listen, when I started practicing, we took x-rays on little tiny films,
Yeah.
By the time I finished practicing, in my later years, it was all digital. Everything was digital. So we weren't doing films anymore, so we didn't have to do developing. So it's just a matter of things changing. You had to learn how to use the digital equipment.
Yeah.
And, also, ultrasonics for cleaning and, all sorts of different kinds of things that come up. You got to learn how to use it. You got to know how it works.
Yeah.
And,
how many people have you heard that go, why do we have to do it that way? It's a better way of doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with learning something new
Yeah.
and expanding your knowledge. And,
Well, that to me goes into expanding your personal growth, expanding your spiritual growth, expanding the growth in your relationship. I mean, our relationship that Jim and I have is not the same relationship that we had 16 years ago when we got married, you know, and it, I hate it when people say this. It just came to mind. Marriage is hard. Well, no, it's a give and take, and it's understanding each other, but it's not, it shouldn't be hard.
No,
You know,
it should be
it
fun.
shouldn't.
Right.
And then they go, oh, marriage has to be worked out. Well, if you treat people like human beings and treat them with kindness and respect, you shouldn't have to work at it.
No,
You should
Yale
do
and I-
it. You know?
Yale and I have fun. I mean, it's just something that we do. And, you know, I know there are some people who, because of this pandemic, because they have to spend so much time together, that they weren't used to spending time together. There are a lot of divorces going on because people,
Oh, that's sad. Uh-huh.
you know, but Yale and I just, I mean, I like spending time with him. We have a lot of fun. And it's been kind of cool, actually. I don't know, you know, after this is over, if he's going to go back to working full days again, I'll be sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
But,
I think that whether it be professional, personal, spiritual, physical health, whatever, you need to be working on that. Continually growing and expanding and learn, like you said, learning new things. If you run out of things to do and new things to learn, it's going to get boring real quick.
well, and the personal growth is going to help you in your business. Because
Oh, absolutely. I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago.
I mean, you know, it's going to help you. So it's important that we do that personal growth, because for people who are improving their communication skills, learning how to manage their stress more effectively, learning how to manage their time more effectively, learning how to run results-oriented meetings, learning how to deal with their employees more effectively, all those kinds of things, it's just going to enhance your life. It's going to enhance your business. It's all good. And it's just a matter of, what are you doing? I mean, people who don't want to learn new things, who don't want to grow, who don't want to expand their minds, I feel sorry for them. It's got to be dull life, you know, like boring. I don't like being bored.
No. Yeah.
And I don't think most people do like to be bored. And it really is just a process of, you know, going outside of your comfort level, learning things that you've never learned before. It's kind of like we went on vacation and, you know, we did a couple of things we've never done before, as far as went to places we'd never seen before. And it's amazing to me that there's still so many in Michigan that I haven't seen. And so those are things that are important to do, just to have that different variety that helps growth as well. And so
they draw a line in the sand and they stay behind it, you know, like they don't cross that line.
Right.
Because that's beyond their comfort zone, you know, oh my God, what would be on the other side of that line, you know, kind of thing. And I'm sorry, it's just not really a good way to live. I think that there's so many things to discover. Why wouldn't you want to? I mean,
exactly.
It's a mystery to me that people don't want to learn new things or try new things or go to new places or try different food or, you know, any of these kinds of things that are so interesting and so much fun. I don't know if I try it.
Well,
say, Chris.
Well, this is what I've done to do new things, and not only have I done it professionally, I've done it personally too as well. There have been days that I have literally intentionally done this. I'm right-handed, so I do everything right-handed. But you know what I ended up doing is when I wanted to write, I started intentionally trying to write with my left hand. Even though I'm not the greatest left-hand writer, they say if you're left-handed, you're in the right mind. You know, so that's the kind of running joke we have. You know, seriously, my mother and my two stepsisters are all left-handed. So I've intentionally did that. And also there have been some times at work, and I have also done things on the opposite side of the brain, so to speak. So instead of me doing things right-handedly, I've gone and done things left-handedly to get things done, or maybe even approach something to say, hey, I've done this thing yesterday. What if I was to do it this way and flip the script on it? And I've kept my mind open to that because, again, I truly believe if you create better environments, you can get better results.
We see in dentistry, you have to use both hands. So you have to be a bit ambidextrous because, for example, if I'm cleaning teeth, got to be, using my right hand, but I got to be suctioning with the left hand or squirting an air water syringe with the left hand. I mean, you got to be using both hands. It just is what it is. So you got used to using both hands because you didn't have a choice. And, that's okay. I mean, because of that, I can bat a baseball right or left.
Right.
There you go.
In fact, there was, I think there was one or two pitchers in the major leagues who actually could throw both ways. Now figure that one out.
Well, again, it's doing different things, Chris, and there's nothing wrong with doing things differently. Just because you've done something the same way forever and ever doesn't mean you can't try to do it a different way. And we talked about this with regard to employees. And the ones that are on the front lines doing the stuff, sometimes they can figure out a way to do it more efficiently or more productively. And the manager or the boss should be listening, because if they come up with a suggestion, you might miss an opportunity if you don't listen to them. So it's a matter of, what are you doing? Are you paying attention to your people? Are you helping them to allow their creativity to be utilized for the company so that maybe we can move something forward in a better way? I mean, it's a matter of enjoying or allowing your people to enjoy some of the things they want to try.
But let me ask you this, Sandy. Let me ask you this. And I'm just doing this as a general, broad kind of question. As us as leaders in whatever industry that we're in, are we intentional enough to create that environment, or are we not?
We should be. We should be intentional enough, because again, Chris, the most important communication skill is active listening. We can't learn anything when we're talking, and we can't learn about our people, who they are, what matters to them, what concerns them, if we don't listen to them. And so it's very important to listen to the people that you work with, the people that you live with, whatever, because that's how we learn. It's really important. And as I've mentioned before, if you are giving someone directions or instructions, don't ask them if they understood you, because they're always going to say yes, because they don't want you to think that they're stupid or that they weren't paying attention. That's not the right question. The right question is, what do you think I expect of you? And that way you'll find out if they actually listen to you and if they're going to do what you want them to do, or if they understand what you want them to do. Because, that's the only way we're going to find out. We're going to get some direct feedback on what they actually heard. Because again, we're not mind readers. We don't know what's going on in somebody's head. And just because they're looking at you when you're giving them instructions doesn't mean that they processed it the way you want. And I think I told you that I have a video that I show when I'm teaching active listening, and it shows a CEO talking to her management team. And we get to hear what's going on in the heads of these people. And the truth is, they're not listening to her, but she doesn't know that because they're sitting there looking at her. And my favorite one is this guy's sitting there and he's looking at her and he's going, wow, that's a really nice scarf Jessica's wearing. My wife's birthday is next week. I'm going to ask her at the end of the year where she got her scarf so that I can get one for my wife. I mean, he's not listening to her. And then there was some other woman that she was sitting there with a handout going, why do they keep giving us this same handout? They're going over and over this again and again. So she wasn't listening. And maybe what the woman was saying was something entirely different. So, it's just people, we aren't mind readers, so we don't know what's going on in someone's head. And so that's why you have to get some feedback to find out if, in fact, the message you sent was the one that was received. Because if somebody's got a problem of their own, or if they're tired, or they're not feeling well, or they're hungry, or whatever, they're probably not going to be listening to you very carefully. So it's a matter of getting the feedback to find out if, in fact, the message you sent was the one that was received. Because if it wasn't, you're not going to get what you want, which means you're going to be disappointed or resentful, and it's going to cause stress. And who needs that, especially in this pandemic? The last thing we need is more stress. So it's just a matter of how are you dealing with your people? And again, because we're not mind readers, we don't know what's going on in their heads. And that's okay, but get some feedback. And if you can do that, then you can have a better chance of making sure you get what you want. And then everybody's going to be happy, because they're not going to be happy if you're angry with them because you didn't get what you wanted. So it's a matter of how are you communicating?
Right.
Which is key.
Exactly.
What do you think, Patrick?
Well, I absolutely agree with you that, you know, as leaders, we need to have that as our part of our repertoire. But one thing that I think we have to be mindful of, though, is there is stupidity and then there's ignorance. And it's two very different things.
Yeah.
Because stupidity is a capability issue. Ignorance is merely the lack of the experience and or the knowledge having to do with that very topic. It's not a bad thing. I can call people ignorant all the time, and they get pissed at me. But it's like, no, it's not a bad thing. You just never been able to experience this before, and they spec, oh, okay, and I get it. You know, it's but knowing the delineation between those two is very important, because that's what's going to help the growth. The amount of that growth either be bigger or smaller or whatever in the end.
Exactly. And again, I mean, you want to encourage people. You want to support them. You want to acknowledge their contribution. So, I mean, if somebody comes up with a good idea that's going to make things more productive or more efficient, you want to thank them and you want to give them the credit for it. What some leaders do is they take credit for something that somebody else addressed it. I'm sorry, that's inappropriate. You got to acknowledge the person who came up with the idea. And a lot of times, because the leader isn't necessarily on the front lines doing whatever they're doing, you have a better chance of getting some special ideas from people who are actually doing the work. And if we're not paying attention, again, you're going to miss opportunities. And that could be really sad. So we have to really pay attention to the people that we work with. And it's very important, especially as a leader. It's not about you, the leader. I'm sorry. It's really not. It's about the people that you work with and helping them to be the best they can be. And that's why you encourage them and you support them and you acknowledge their contributions and you're respectful of them. And if you can do all those things, you're going to have a good culture. And if you have a good functioning culture, you're going to have happy employees. And happy employees are more productive. They're more creative. You don't have to worry about customer service, because if they're proud of where they work, they want the customers to be happy and keep returning. And guess what? Happy people are sick less often, because happiness changes your brain chemistry and enhances your immune system. So if you're happy, you probably won't be sick that often, because when people are sick, the rest of us have to pick up the slack, because there's a body missing that's supposed to be doing certain things, and now the rest of us have to pick up that slack. So we don't want a lot of people missing a lot of work, because it puts stress and strain on the rest of us. So it's a matter of how are you dealing with the people that you work with. And if you can do a nice job and establish and maintain a good internal culture, you're going to have a good business and it's going to do well. And then everyone's going to be happy, including the leader. I mean, I know Brian talks about, people are in this for the money. Well, yeah, but you're not going to make the money if your people aren't productive and aren't working properly and aren't there, and you keep turning over people. It's very expensive turnover. Mm-hmm. You got to retrain people, and they've got to. It's crazy. So it's better to find out who people are and help them to develop their potential. And when they develop their potential, their self-esteem rises, their self-confidence rises, so they do better work. Again, it's not rocket science. I mean, it's really not. It's just a matter of, it's the human thing, Chris. So that's really what it is.
Chris, I was just looking for that image that John C. Maxwell had on growth, and it was an acronym. And I cannot think of what the letters stand for to save my life. And I know we had you'd asked me about it, and then we were talking about how that would be a great topic to talk about, and now I can't find the image. I think it'd be great to share either today or tomorrow, but he's got some really great things to say about growth.
Yeah, he talked about each one of the letters, and each one of the letters stood for something.
Yeah.
It's actually in a video. I just had to go find it. It's actually in a video.
Yeah, it is.
But I got to ask this to everyone because I had this question pop in my brain. Should we, as leaders, or even just individual people as a whole, as whole people as we are, should we be intentional enough, number one, to go out and meet people where they are? And then number two, create that dynamic in that environment that spawns the creativity, the collaboration, and all that kind of stuff. Can we do those things? And I'll go to you, Miss Lisa. What do you say that?
Yeah, most definitely. We should do those things. It's important to our personal growth to do those things. And I think creating those situations only helps us in the long run as a whole, not only for us in general, but for the community at large. So, yes.
Well, I think that we live in some people tend to live in such a bubble that they don't open themselves up to getting to know other people, collaborating with them, seeing what you have in common, which would allow both people to start growth. I mean, it's like just lowering the drawbridge and allowing people to come across into your world. If you all looked at your connections in LinkedIn, for example, if you looked at your connections and maybe, somebody connected with you and you sent them a message, hey, how are you? How's it going? Would love to get to know about what you do. How many people in your connection don't even reply to that?
Quite a few.
They just live in this cocoon. Like, okay, I'm going to connect with these people. I'm going to see what's they're outside my little world, and I'm going to connect with them. And then I'm going to reach back into my world and connect with them. And then they have no interaction. That's not growth.
Right.
Why are people that way? Is it because they think that they're going to get sold to? Or what?
I think people just get caught up in their situation. They're busy working. They get in a rut. They get in a the way they're doing, and they don't stop to think why, I should do something differently.
Them and I'll connect with them. And then, it's like, this isn't, like LinkedIn, for example, it's a networking community.
It's kind of like
who you're going to meet and how you could help one another outside of what each one of us does.
Yeah, it's kind of like a friend of mine. Well, she moved to California, and we used to work together. And she sent me a message, said, hey, I'm in town. I said, hey, we should get together. And we said this over and over and over again. Oh, yeah, we should get together. Yeah, we'll get together. So finally, I just sent her a message and said, let's meet on Friday. Let's meet at 12 or 1 or whatever. And so we finally made a connection to actually sit down and have lunch together. But it wasn't until I said, hey, let's just do it on this day. And instead of what we were doing, we were just trying to be polite, and the other one was trying to let the other one. And it was just a vicious cycle that didn't change until one of us said, let's just do it on this day. And so you have to take that next step. Otherwise, it doesn't happen, because you're being nice and you get busy, and then they're being nice and they get busy, and then it just never happens. So until you actually physically set a date and a time, it just isn't going to happen. Now, I'm not saying it will not happen. It potentially could get changed, but
happen to say, well, let me know when you're free. They're not going to. A lot of people are not going to do that. You have to say,
exactly.
Hey, Monday at 10. I can do Monday, Wednesday, or Friday for lunch. Which works best for you?
Exactly. And that's what I finally did, because we were doing the whole, let me know when you're free. Yeah, let me know. And nobody ever let anyone know. And so finally I was like, okay, we're just going to set a time, a day and a time, and just do this.
I think a lot of people get so organized they don't want to. They get so overwhelmed with everything, and that's a whole nother topic about it being overwhelmed. But they don't want to plan one more thing.
Right.
You just get wrapped up in your daily to do, and it's kind of like, my mother-in-law is now in a nursing home and my son is older. And I said, you need to make an effort to see her, and so until he actually puts it down in his calendar, he's not going to do it. And so it's important, and they're close. So it's not like that's an issue. It's just a matter of making the time to do it, because it's easy to get wrapped up in your day to day. And that's what I said to him. It's easy to get wrapped up in your day to day. So you just need to say, okay, this Saturday of every month, I'm going to go see my grandma.
That comes down to, if it's important to you, you'll make time for it.
Right.
And sometimes you have to have time for it. Otherwise you do get wrapped up in your day to day. And so it's just one of those, and I'm not saying I've never done it before.
No.
I think we all do it at some point, and you have to make that effort. Or
people say that they want to change their life
step.
and they want to grow and they want to, they want to do this, they want to lose weight, they want to start this habit or that habit. And until you actually make time for it and actually figure out what's going to be the give and take of 24 hours in your day and make it a priority, you're not going to do it.
Right. You have to put it in your day to day. Otherwise it gets missed. And so I think that's what happens. People just get wrapped up in their day to day, the things they have to do each day. And if they don't make it, like Carla said, make it a priority or put it in your day to day, it just isn't going to happen.
Or realize that maybe something that you're doing cannot logistically be done in an hour. It's going to take 2 hours. So that means something else has got to give in your day.
Right.
Or you figure out how you can do both at once. Maybe, you want to listen to a presentation online. Well, go take your walk while that presentation is rolling through your earbuds. There is a way to do that, but figure that kind of stuff out and figure out that some things take longer than others, but a lot of people just literally fly by the seat of their pants.
Right.
I had an interesting conversation last night with a guy from Thailand who connected with me through LinkedIn, but decided that he wanted to have a conversation with me. So we had a lot of trouble finding a time because there's such a huge time difference between Thailand and here. So we ended up talking last night at 7:00 at night. And we had a very interesting conversation. He's a retired teacher, but he does a lot of coaching now. And we have a lot of things in common. So we had a very interesting conversation. And it was fun. And I've done that with a few people that I've met, Carl. I think I told you guys when we went to Kenya on safari, I had connected with a woman on LinkedIn in Kenya, and we had emailed back and forth many times. So when we were going there, I emailed her and I told her when we were coming, and she and her husband came to our hotel in Nairobi and visited with us. I mean, how's that ever going to happen? It's the same thing, Dennis, with Chris, with Dennis. How I connected with him on LinkedIn and then ended up being part of this catalyst. But I told you, he came to Vancouver, and before he came, he told me, and Yale and I had breakfast with him and his wife and one of the other people that's on his site. And I'm in touch with another guy, also a Dennis, who lives in Greece. And he's a LinkedIn specialist, and he helps people improve their LinkedIn profile so they get more attention and stuff like that. Dennis and I talk all the time. I mean, it's just, and I also met a woman who lives in Montreal, and she's written a book. She sent me her book, and we communicate all the time. And I hooked her up with Dennis, so she's also on Biz Catalyst. And, it's just a matter of, it depends, Carla, on, how you decide, which people you decide you want to make a better relationship with. And it doesn't matter where they live. I mean, it really doesn't. I mean, the technology we have today allows us to hook up with people literally all over the world. It's kind of cool. And who would have thought that I would meet this woman from Kenya? I mean, go figure.
I was having a conversation with a guy from Hong Kong who was working in Malaysia, and his daughter's in Germany.
Well, there you go.
Wow.
International family.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
It's, I mean, we're very fortunate today to have the technology that we have in order to be able to expand our horizons and meet different people who have different backgrounds, different experiences, and so on. And we can learn from each other. And it's a wonderful opportunity. And of course, with this pandemic, it's a good thing we have this stuff, because I would not be able to even see my grandsons if we didn't have it. So,
Yeah, we would be quite isolated without it.
yeah. So we are fortunate that we have what we have today, so that we can stay in touch with people in a bit of a more meaningful way. It's not the same as being in person, but at least we can have face-to-face conversations and different kinds of things that without the technology we wouldn't be able to do. So we're very fortunate, and it also gives us the opportunity to have our growth in different ways, because you learn more even about the technology and how to use it more effectively and so on. And it's another aspect of growth. I think I told you guys when I started doing this, I used overheads, those transparency and overhead projectors. And the HR manager, you'll like this, Lisa, after the third time I was at this law firm, she came up to me and she said, I think it would be a good idea if you learned how to use PowerPoint. I looked at her, I said, PowerPoint. But one of my daughter's friends was really good with it. So I had Haley come over to my house and show me how to use PowerPoint. So then I, continued to, again, another chance to learn something you didn't know anything about. And, it's just, I mean, when you have not had business experience, it's a huge, steep learning curve, because there's many, many things we have to learn how to do. I mean, just like learning how to handle the back end of my website, and learning Excel, and learning how to use Word better, and learning PowerPoint, and all these different things, that because I certainly, as an older person, did not grow up with a computer. Fortunately, I did know how to type, but I didn't grow up with a computer, and so you have to learn. And it was the same thing when it started in the office, Carla. We had to, all the patient charts are now done, on the computer. And then when we started doing digital pictures and all this stuff, you had to learn. I mean, there just wasn't a choice. You have to progress, because otherwise you get left behind, and that's just not a good place to be. So people need to understand that they have to continue to grow and learn in order to stay in touch and be where you should be, because otherwise you're missing the boat and you look out of step. And that's why she said this to me. She said, I know you, Sandy. She said, you need to learn how to do this. She said, you're looking old fashioned.
I learned on a computer when I was living in Milan in the library. My kids were like in kindergarten and first grade, and then my husband would come home with a I don't know what they called it back then, but it's like there was I guess there was Mac, there was Microsoft at the time, and so I learned about function keys, and that's how I learned how to use a computer. And then many years later, my parents decided they wanted to learn how to use a computer, and I think I've told the story, but my dad, when they had passwords, passwords came into existence, and he'd get frustrated with the computer and couldn't figure out where to go with it, and he just shut it down, and he'd say, well, hell. And so then the passwords came into being. He called me up one day and he goes, damn, computer's not working. I said, what's the matter, Dad? He goes, well, I keep wanting to put in my password and it just does the asterisk. The keyboard's not working. I said, yeah, that's so nobody can look over your shoulder and see your password. He goes, oh, well, hell. I said, well, that's the other key.
That's awesome.
And even now, he's just like, he's like, if the printer's not working or this, that, or the other, and come to find out he hasn't plugged it in right. It's just crazy. But we have to keep up to speed on what's going on, whether it be programs, social media, LinkedIn. I learned how to do Restream. I'm still learning. I thank God I'm learning. This is on the call to post all the links to everybody, because when he was telling me we use this and that and the other, and I said, Chris, Don't you ever tell me you don't know that I know more than you about computers. Don't even go there, And I'm like, because my brain was just like swimming, And I'm like, whoa, back the bus up. Now you go here and you go over here, So you have to stay on top of that, and you have to make mistakes with it.
So let's start the call to action and final thoughts, and I will start with Patrick. And let's go around the room for that. So, Patrick, what will be your call to action and final thoughts?
So, for one thing, Carla, I go back to a term that you've used before, vanity stats. That's why people connect with others, because they want to feel connected. They want to boost those numbers up. I actually asked somebody one time, they had 10,000 friends. I'm like, how many of them do you really know? And they're like, none.
Yeah.
What is the point, So that's part of the issue is people are they're just friend collectors. But it's funny because
friend collectors.
That's exactly what it is. And LinkedIn is becoming that way too. I mean, LinkedIn is it's on its last leg, and there's new ones out there. We'll discuss that on Monday. But every week I maintain 2 lists. First list is my daily list. It's the stuff that I'm going to work on that day to get knocked out, completed. My other one I've never really named, but as of today, I'm going to name it my growth list, because those are the items that are the longer term things that I check in every week to say, what kind of progress have I made? Am I behind, ahead of the curve, whatever? So then I can focus my efforts in the other places that need attention, or the things that I can cross off the list. So my growth list. So I leave that as a thought for the rest of you. Would like to put that to your repertoire? It's yours.
Very good.
Lisa?
So for me, it's really just to, just to continually grow, just to make the initiative or take the initiative to grow, to find something that you can do that will be a growth opportunity for you. So whether it be, having conversations with people that you don't know, or whatever it is, whatever it is for you that would be a growth opportunity, I say take that initiative, because it not only helps you grow, it helps you evolve into other perspectives, other ways of appreciating other people. It is a way to keep your mind and body active. It's growth is so important to us as humans in general, that I think it's just important to take that initiative to grow, to find something different to do, something different to see, to make those, like Sandy was saying, to make those neurons, those connections that'll help you lifelong.
Carla?
Well, I like what Patrick said and what Lisa said. And I look back at how I was 2 years ago when somebody told me that I was going to get on LinkedIn and actually have conversations with people to see how they were and share with them what they do and what I do. And if they like it, fine. If they don't, that's fine, and actually develop a friendship. I was like, I'm going to do that. And then I realized I was doing that in healthcare too. But it was different when, you had to get on the phone or get on a Zoom or whatever. But I'm just looking at growing, and we're with my team. We're in the process of finishing out the fourth quarter strong, and everybody has their own goals. And I think that everyone needs to develop some goals that they could work on for this fourth quarter. And the fourth quarter never ends. It's going to turn into the first quarter and the second quarter and the third quarter and the fourth quarter. And we all have to work on continuous improvement. We are all unique individuals, and I think that we need to not compare ourselves to other people. We need to figure out who we are, what we stand for, and be us, and be true to yourself, and not just go with the flow on what's the thing to think or what's the thing to do. I'm not one of these people that gets into seasonal fashion or anything like that. Just be you. Just be you, and embrace the fact that you are different from other people, and always work on your own personal, professional, and your personal and professional, and your human growth.
Right.
The best you can be.
Miss Sandy?
Well, I think that continual growth for your whole life is really important, Chris. And I think that people need to be exploring different ways of doing things and new things that they can try. And I think when you do that, your life is more interesting. I mean, if we were all the same, it would be a real boring world. It's good that people are different. And you can learn from different people and their different approaches to things and so on and so forth. And I think it's just really important to continually grow. And, you know, you want to grow intellectually, you want to grow in the human way, whatever it is that you want to do in terms of how you want to expand your knowledge and your experiences is really an important thing to do. And on top of which, you know, it's interesting. Sometimes it's kind of fun. And, you know, especially when you meet new people and you start learning about them and what they're interested in. And sometimes that can say, oh, that sounds interesting. Maybe I'll try that, you know, whatever. So it's just a matter of growth is very important. I think it's fundamental to our existence and to our success. And people who continue to grow their whole life, they're going to have a good life. And I think that's, you know, that's part of it. And again, you have to have that intention, which we've talked about before. You don't have an intention to grow, you won't. So, you know, we have to say to ourselves, I'm going to continue to do this. I mean, I had to do it when I was practicing, but now I just do it because it's interesting and it's an opportunity to learn some other things and to bring some different things into the programs that I present and so on and so forth. And again, it's fun. I enjoy learning new things. I enjoy doing new things. I enjoy trying to do things in new ways. It's just, you know, it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, for me, ladies and gentlemen, it's about just being who you are. Just like Carla said, compare yourself to somebody else. But I recognize as a human being that if I want to be a part of something bigger than myself, I got to be open to all possibilities and all opportunities that are before me. And if I can embrace that and take it for what it is, don't try to add things to it or subtract things to it, and just let it be for what it is and embrace it for what it is. And sometimes we can even embrace the darkest times of our lives to even flip it around and change that into a positive. So sometimes we can embrace that fear and use it as motivation. We can embrace the things that makes us afraid and say, hey, I'm not going to be so fearful no more, because you know what? If I don't fear anything today, I won't fear anything tomorrow, because I tell people every day, if we don't fear anything, we don't lose anything, because I truly believe fear is only a construct. So if you have nothing to fear, then you have nothing to lose. And I truly believe that. So just be yourself, be human, and just be authentic, not only to yourself, but just be real to everybody else, and people will appreciate that. So again, everyone, I'm so thankful and honored that not only are you in my life, but you're on this great team and community that is bringing humanity together, and we're getting new people in every day. So if you want to learn more and find out more about who we are as not only people, but as an organization that's so human driven and human rooted in our values, please reach out to one of us, and we would like to have that great and engaging conversation with you, because we're here to not only grow as people, we're here to grow as a community, as a team. Because to me, and we'll go back to our great mission statement, we believe this: if I help you, you help me, then we help we.
For sure.
Yep.
That's right.
So
It's all
everybody,
interconnected.
have a great day, make it your day, and we'll see you tomorrow for Conversation for Humanity.
I'll see you
Bye
tomorrow.
bye.